Hello Mechwarriors. Today this is a quick review and more of a explanation and tactics on how to properly brawl in this mech. And there's a lot of different builds you could go with and a lot of different people have different opinions, but these are my opinions. And it's the only ones that matter to me anyways. Though there are some good opinions out there. So for me, there's two ways to run this mech. The classic traditional, which is 4 LBX-20s, which does work exceptionally well. However, it does have a long cooldown period. And then the other build is what I refer to as the second variant, or Leviathan 2, because this is Leviathan 1. And that is 2 LBX-20s, 2 LBX-10s, and 4 SRM-4s. Now, this is with all skills being equal, essentially, and what I mean by skills is in the skill tree. The difference between these two builds really comes down to heat. The amount of heat that the build with the SRM-4s puts out is slightly higher. When I maxed out on heat, doing a kill, which you'll see in the test matches coming up, you'll see that the maximum heat that the LBX-20s, the 4 of them did together, got up to 43%. However, the other build with the 4 SRM-4s, the 2 LBX-10s, and 2 LBX-20s got all the way up to 66%. So it's significantly hotter by 20%. However, the benefit is that it does slightly more damage, it kills slightly quicker, and also you have the variability that you can fire the LBX-10s quicker and the SRM-4s quicker as well. And you could just as easily make these into SRM-6s if you stripped a bunch of armor, but I wasn't interested in that. So let me show you what I've got going on here. So this build here, once again, has 2 LBX-20s out on the arms. And I could have just as easily probably tried to do it here with something, but I would have had to scale down to a standard engine in order to make this work. So I just put the LBX-20s out on the arms. 2 LBX-10s here. And then 2 SRM-4s in each torso, giving me 4 total. For ammo, because this is an event match Brawler build, I'm only running 1.5 tons of ammo. And then I'm running 2 tons of the LBX-10s and 3 tons of the LBX-20s. I figure that's probably a mainstay because I'm probably going to be firing the LBXs quite a bit more as far as being able to put out a little bit more output. The LBX-20s don't come with a lot of ammo. So we got 30 shots of the LBX-20s. And then we have 46 shots of the LBX-10s. Or excuse me, sorry, I got a half a ton here, so that's only 5. So I've got 25 shots of the LBX-20s. And then of the LBX-10s, I have 46. And then of the missiles, we've got 120 there, plus 60 equals 180. So we have 180 shots there. So I'm going to be able to fire these for a little bit, and then I'm probably going to run out at some point or another. Now there's a couple different ways you can run these. I set them up for the test in doing alpha strikes with them. So they're going to fire all 4, and then they're going to cool down. When I'm typically in a match, I might fire them in alphas, but typically I fire the SRM-4s in chain fire. And then I alpha strike these. So this guy I'll fire, and this guy I'll fire, this guy on this guy I'll fire. And then predictably, the LBX-10, since it has a cooldown of 2.25 seconds in most optimum conditions, but I've got skills added to it to make it so it fires a little bit quicker. So these will fire after 2.25 seconds if everything's normal. These ones take 4 seconds. So you can see that there's a difference there as well. So these will all fire, and then these LBX-10s will fire again, and then these will fire as time goes on, and then these will be chain firing 1, 2, 3, 4, and then wait a little bit, and 1, 2, 3, 4. These have a cooldown of 3 seconds. So the LBX-10s are going to fire more often, but they're doing about the same amount of damage, because this is 8 damage, and then this is 10 damage. So they're pretty similar. So think of it in terms of having, it's like having 4 additional LBX-10s. If you bridge the number between the two, think of it in terms of like having 6 SRM-9s, you know, if there was such a thing, an SRM-9. But it's pretty similar otherwise. These produce not very much heat, too, and then these are producing 2.7, so they're slightly warmer. And then the LBX-20s are doing their typical 4. So this build really capitalizes on the ability to fire more often, because the LBX-20s are going to take forever to cool down, and then these are going to fire, and these are going to fire, and so on and so forth. I did have to strip some armor out of the legs to get enough ammo on board to do this, but I'm still at 103 on the legs, which is more than ample. And I feel like this is the proper amount of armor, because you don't always know where people are on the battlefield. Sometimes they can come up behind you. That leads me to the next topic, which is the skills tree. But let's take a look at the build for the LBX-20s, or what I just simply call Leviathan. Leviathan is just straight up 4 LBX-20s. And we're running 5.5 tons of ammo in the torso and legs, and then on the left and right torso we're running additional ammo. Quite frankly, this is overkill. I just didn't have anything else better to do with the extra spots available, so I took advantage of it this way. Heat management is actually pretty good. If you don't mind taking out some of the tonnage in the ammo that you're probably not going to use, you can throw them into the heat sinks, but this thing is already pretty chill as it is at 1.58. Now, between the two, the skill tree is pretty much the same in regards to being able to fire the weapons as far as they go. I might throw a little bit more into the ammo capacity for this one if it doesn't have SRMs on board. But as far as the mainstay of things is, heat management, heat generation is maxed out, and cooldown is maxed out, so that way I can fire these weapons a little bit faster than I normally would be able to. But otherwise, the survival is all maxed out, including overheat damage. Seismic sensor is maxed out, which is an absolute must. You gotta have seismic sensor if you're doing brawling. Having that edge of knowing where they are when they're coming to you. See, when they're moving, they may have seismic sensor, but when they're moving, their seismic sensor does nothing for them. So you can just sit, lay, and wait, and hopefully that's what they're not doing, and you can really take advantage of the situation. That leads me to another thing. If your mech is capable of ECM, ECM is great for protecting you from mechs, but it also lets mechs know if you're close by. So they can stop, and if they have seismic, ECM actually works against you in that regard. Since you don't have any weapons, and like on either one of these two builds, you don't have any weapons that are going to betray you as far as being able to fire. None of these are guided missile systems, so they're not going to have a problem. If you have a guided missile system, ECM might actually work against you and make it harder for you to be able to fire your weapons, like your streaks. That's why one of the reasons I don't run streaks very often. I'm running 2 cool slots and a UAV on both of these. Honestly, I use the UAV and I use the first cool shot, and I never get around to using the second one because I'm either usually dead or the match is over. But this is basically how I'm running this otherwise. And when I'm doing this with just the LBX's build, I'll have these maxed out, have these taken off, and then I'll throw the rest of it into, actually, you gotta take these off. Then I'll throw the last one into velocity, because really range isn't going to do me any difference or any favors. And the reason is because typically you're firing these in close quarters. I mean, I rarely come across a situation where I'm not firing these in close quarters. So that's why I do it the way I do. So ultimately, this is a pretty good build design, but more importantly, I wanted to show you the differences between having an LBX build and having LBXs with some other options. This isn't about which one do you think is better. This is more about the playstyle that I play with. And I was since I don't have a Stone Rhino K on this account, it's just really hard for me to recreate that build. Otherwise, I'd probably be running a Stone Rhino K and we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be running 2 LBX-20s and 6 SRM-6s and mopping the battlefield up every other match probably. There are some really good players out there, so you got to be careful. And being able to take firepower and more importantly give firepower is really where it's at on the battlefield. So another thing to consider is also the amount of armor you're using in the rear. Anyways, I hope you like the views that are coming up, and you can judge for yourself, but ultimately it comes out to a difference between the amount of heat and the rate of firepower. The LBX-20's build has a better heat management, but the rate of firepower is very slow and sluggish, and if you miss a shot, you have to wait a while before you can actually get that shot again. Whereas with the SR-6s, you can get that shot in, but you're going to sacrifice heat, and in a situation that's already intense, that heat might actually work against you. So it really comes down to your playstyle. Here we're doing a test of the Leviathan build that I have, and this is to tell how long it takes to make a kill, and also the amount of heat that is produced in this fire rate. I will be firing the buttons all on button 1, and it'll make sense that way. And we'll see how long it takes to kill, and also how long or how much heat is produced as a result of the kill. And here we go. 3, 2, 1. Cooldown period. That took 9 seconds. Now we will test the other one, and the heat that it produced was moderate. It got up to about halfway, 50%, and it seemed to be pretty good. Here we are testing the firepower and output. 3, 2, 1. And that actually took about 8 seconds, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. Hello. In summary, basically you've been able to see the differences between having 4 LBX-20s and having 2 LBX-20s, 2 LBX-10s, and 4 SRM-4s to see what the benefits are. Now, the build with the SRMs is slightly quicker by maybe 1 second, and it does have a better rate of fire. But you also risk getting internal damage with heat if you're firing more often, and you have a target that's harder to kill than that Atlas in the Trials map. Not to mention, you're not going to come across a target that's just going to sit there and wait for you to shoot at them, like that guy did. So you get into a situation where maybe having the extra heat management is going to be better for you, and depending on how you're firing the weapons, I typically set them up with the 4 LBX-20s, doing the arms left and right, and then button 3 on the other 2, so that way I can choose to fire depending on the left or the right side, if I can get into that target, not wasting our ammo, but more importantly, I'm not worried about the ammo, but more importantly, having that shot available should the situation arise in between fires. So sometimes I'm only firing the 3 LBX-20s, and other times I'm firing the 4. But having that LBX just sitting and waiting for you to be able to use versus it being against the wall and firing it and not doing anything whatsoever and risking heat is really nice to have that extra punch ready. On the LBX with SRM build, the benefit that has is that you have a better rate of fire, and you do have more heat associated with that, which can work against you. But in a brawling situation like that, having that extra firepower that you can fire just at the last minute, both of you guys have red torsos, both of you are open. He might be at like 30% or 35%, and that last volley that's going to be like 8 or 10 damage might be enough to take him out. But if you have the 4 LBX-20s, you got to wait until your weapons can fire again. You're basically literally stuck waiting for your turn to fire versus having those weapons available. And in the case of that situation, your LBX-10 is going to be available, and at least one of your SRM 4s is going to be available. And so that might be the tipping point that's going to get you across the battlefield as a win versus you ending up as a permanent remembrance of the battlefield. Do you detect him? There they are.
Target acquired. New target.
Hoorah. I am thermal. 2 solo kills. I don't understand that at all. I mean, you put in the work pump, you're done. An override we trust.
Reactor online.
Same plan as last time, up and to the right.
Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Cool.
Command to all warriors on the
Override
surface.
engaged.
Your task is to wipe away
Image
Thermal might help too.
engaged.
Show no mercy.
Wow, that sounds very familiar. 2 LBX-20s, 2 LBX-10s, and 4 SR-4s. Nothing on seismic so far. So far, nothing. Off to our, between us and B2. Nice work. I think I forgot to put ammo for a minute. They've split up now. Nice kill. You couldn't hear me at all.
Hero Mech. And unfortunately, I don't like it very much at all.
Target acquired.
There they are.
New target acquired.
Kodiak's going to be easiest to kill of those two, I think.
badly damaged.
Stay
So.
frosty.
Send.
I gotta cool out.
Enter torso.
I can't take it much more from him.
SR-M destroyed.
Nice.
Warriors on trial.
You were the distraction he needed.